Welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. Continual watching beyond this point may result in terminal face palming and a complete loss of wokeness. You have been warned.
Hey, welcome to the Non-Sequitur Show. It is a holiday today. It is actually one of my favorite, if not the favorite holiday of mine. It is Veterans Day. It is the day that we celebrate those who honorably served for our country, those people that enlisted, did their time, got out honorably or close to honorably. I guess general discharge would be sufficient as well. But we celebrate them, and I like to thank all the veterans out there that served honorably for their service. And I happen to have two with me today to talk about this subject. I have two honorably discharged veterans. One from, well, actually, no, well, both were Navy like myself, but one was surface, one was sub, if I'm correcting. Maybe they're both sub. I don't remember. Anyways, we have the wonderful, the amazing AT2 Jared in here.
Good evening, everybody. And actually, Steve, we have all three divisions of the Navy covered. We got surface, we got aviation, and we have the sub fleet.
Yeah, you were on the aircraft carrier because you did aviation. So you were on an aircraft carrier. I did destroyer. And then we also have Jay Brown, who was a submariner, right?
Yep.
I don't know how you do it, man. I will never understand how those submariners do it. I mean, God bless them, because I went in a sub one time and I was so claustrophobic, and I was like, nope, not happening. We didn't even go into water too. We basically was just doing a tour, and I was like, nope, can't do it.
Oh, come on, it's fun. You sit around, you play with microfiche, you play with cameras. Oh wait, that was only me. Never mind.
What actually did you do again? It was a classified. I can't tell. You have to kill me if you tell me.
No, I was a navigation electronics technician, so it was a combination of ET, QM, and IC all rolled into one rate.
Yeah, I was a machinist, mate. Nuke. But by the way, I guess there's a rumor going around that I was actually not actually a nuke, even though that on my Facebook I'm actually talking to my shipmates that were nukes. I don't know. It's crazy, right? But anyways, before we dive into our topic, and I'll discuss that in a second, I want to ask you guys this. Do you guys see this? These ribbons? I'm going to quiz you guys real quick before we start this. This one's easy.
Well, no, both.
They're both easy, actually. But
yeah, they're both. One is the national defense. The other is the Kuwaiti service.
Nope, it's not Kuwait. That's not. You know what? It's funny. My ship did earn the Kuwaiti Liberation Medal, but we didn't get it when I had my DD-214. So I have to do a DD-215 to actually go get that
change
medal.
It. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got it later on. So that kind of sucked. Now this is actually the Southwest Asian Service Medal. Yeah, so this is the Southwest. Oh, wait, no, this one's the Southwest Asian Service Medal. This one's the National Defense Ribbon, with both of which I did earn. You guys, I think both. Well, I mean, I know you got the National Defense. Did you get the South? Yeah. West Asian Service Medal?
No, I never played in the sandbox.
I didn't go anywhere cool. I piddled around in the North Pacific.
I also got the Armed Services Expeditionary Medal and Good Conduct Medal.
I got the Good Conduct. Yeah. I don't know how.
Yeah, I know, right? I mean, I don't know. Seriously, people, I don't know how anybody in the military gets a Good Conduct Medal, because you all screw up. I mean, you're all just you come off on leave, you're drunk as hell, and you're operating a nuclear power plant and stuff like that.
It's all about not getting caught,
right? It's all and that's your skill set, right? That's your skill set you learn in the military, to how to do things without actually doing them, without actually getting caught.
Let's see if I have that meme still.
I don't miss those days at all. But anyways, we're not going to have a long show today because many of us would like to go out and go get some more food. I've been out and about all day. I went to Denny's, had a wonderful Grand Slam breakfast. Then I went to a place called Farmer Boys or Farmer Brothers? Farmer Brothers, isn't it? I think it was called Farmer Brothers. I think it's Farmer Brothers. Yeah. Oh, my God. Their food is amazing. Their fries were delicious. Their hamburger was great. Then I got a free cup of coffee at Starbucks. And I'm going to hit Applebee's tonight because everybody knows how much I like Applebee's.
Steve, check in the area because a couple of the local Chick-fil-A's out here, free chicken sandwich for veterans.
I love Chick-fil-A, but they're not here.
Just for going, you don't have any in that area?
Not in my locale, nope. Which is a shame because, I mean, I'm not a fan of their politics, clearly, but, I mean, their food is amazing. So,
well, here's another thing to actually point out with that is a lot of people confuse the politics of the ownership with the company directly. Whereas every time the owner of Chick-fil-A has said something that was controversial or borderline controversial, he was saying it as himself, not as the company.
Yeah, and I recognize that as well. That's why I don't really hold it against them. I mean, the food's good. The people there, they don't have to support the politics to be able to work and survive and do what they got to do to make ends meet. So I don't fault them at all for it. None. So, but where do you guys hit before we get started on the topic today? Where did you guys go?
I have not gone anywhere yet.
I said it's the word yet there, as you said yet. So you plan to go out?
I plan on going out if I get a chance to. The wife is streaming over on Twitch right now for her stuff, and then if she gets done soon enough, we'll go out. Otherwise, I've been up since 3:30 this morning. I'm ready for bed.
Yeah, well, I got up at 5. I had early. I started my day early because I had errands.
I had to work today, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had to work too. So I actually ended up mixing mine amongst the day. Started at Denny's, did the free breakfast, which it's not the best food, but you know what? Denny's is better than Waffle House.
Those are fighting words.
Yeah, I like Waffle House, actually.
I will stand by that.
We might have to have a debate on that one of these days. I happen to be a big fan of Waffle House. But, the thing with Denny's is this. The food was good. I mean, the food was good. There's no question about that. But it's $3.95 for a Diet Coke. So your pancakes are free, your eggs are free, your bacon, your sausage, all free. And, I mean, you can drink water if you want and have the whole meal free. But most people usually coffee with it or a soda. $3.95 for soda in California. I mean, I remember a 2-liter bottle used to be 99 cents, right?
Well, it sounds about right, though, when you figure how the cost of everything has been going up when it comes to a consumer goods standpoint. Yeah. And it is unlimited refills on that. Yeah, it's not like the orange juice where it's $3.25 and you only get the one glass.
Same with milk, right? Yeah. So it's like spending $20 on orange juice.
Yeah. Who do they think we are? Reds?
Well, don't Floridians get orange juice for free?
Yeah, it's in the contract when they are born. They have in their name they have like an orchard given to them or something like that. Yeah.
Oh, and with how much orange juice that boy drinks, you would think he's getting it for free.
Yep. So let's dive into our topic for today because this is kind of an interesting topic, and there's a specific reason why I decided to do it, and wanted to get your guys' input on it and the live chat. This is an open session, so if you guys want to join, by all means, the link to join is in the video description, pinned to the top. I'll be adding people as we continue with this, but I wanted a little bit to have a little discussion on what I perceive as Christian hypocrisy. Now, people know I am more harder on atheists than any group out there. I mean, I'm known for basically being the thorn in the atheist side because as a non-believer, I hold them to a higher expectation. I mean, literally, I spend time on Facebook dealing with people that don't know the ins and outs of basic logic, telling me that I'm just wrong by fiat rather than actually giving any kind of argumentation. And I compare that to, some kind of religious fundamentalist that's just saying, God exists. And you say, why? Well, because reasons. You have to give some reasons for why you believe a specific thing. And if you think I'm wrong, like some reasons. So I am harder on the non-believer. However, I will criticize Christians and I'll criticize theists just as much when I see the same kinds of situations. So this is my situation that happened the other day, guys. Where I live, I go to this one establishment that I've been frequently going to for about 30 years. I love the place. Matter of fact, met some really awesome people just the other day there. And I went there. It was a bar. It's a bar. And I went there, and it was kind of early, right? It was about 4:30. This is story time. Yes, this is my story time. People like my story time. It's about 4:30 in the afternoon. So it wasn't like, the bar was like jamming, anything like that. Nothing, major going on. But I saw two friends there that I've known for a while. Two girls, very good looking, pleasant, nice young ladies that I've known for some time. And, I'm like, hey, what's going on? Where's everybody? And they're like, they'll be showing up. So I'm like, cool. So I sat down with them, and started chatting. And they happened to spot my necklace, which, by the way, is the same necklace on my video right here, which is this, which I've seen, you guys seen a million times, right? You recognize this? You see it? Jared?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah. So as people that know me know, this is the symbol for Ghost, the band Ghost BC, which was actually discovered. I discovered it through this really, really ugly dude in Florida that does rocket launches. You guys ever heard of him? Red's Rhetoric? Does the same name sound familiar? Vaguely, right, Jared?
Ugly fucker.
He is, dude. People don't even know. But anyways, they are a satanic band, although they don't really. They don't believe in Satan, right? It's all like Kiss kind of stuff, right? But, it's an upside down cross, but it has also GC on there. But anyways, I'm sitting there and they noticed it. And first thing they said was, did you just get out of church? Right? I'm like,
okay.
No.
Okay. Got jokes. Got jokes. All right.
When I dress up, I dress up. I was wearing my jacket, like a suit jacket, so I was looking, pretty good. But I was like, and I was carrying my tablet too, because I guess they thought my tablet was a Bible or something, right? So I was like, no, I definitely didn't go to church. I haven't been to church in a very, very long time. And I explained to them what it was, and they said, well, we're Christian, and I'm like, yeah, I know that. And she says, well, while you're sitting with us, would you mind putting it away? Okay, no problem. I'm not an a-hole, right? So I'm like, yeah, no problem. I'll put it away if it offends you. And I thought about this as I was doing this. If the situation was reversed, as me, let's say I was a Satanist, and a Christian sat down and they had a actual cross, like a regular cross or a crucifix, and I said to them, that offends me because I'm a Satanist. Will you please put it away while you're sitting here? Would that be offensive to the Christian? I believe so, to some degree.
My inclination would be that the majority of Christians, if they were to say anything, they would flip the fuck out.
Right, and granted, like I said, I knew these people, right? So it wasn't like complete strangers by any stretch of imagination. And so I was being cordial and things of that nature. But I was really thinking to myself, if I had told them, because they're wearing a crucifix, and I'm sitting there going, hey, look, man, I'm a Satanist. I don't want to look at your crucifix. I don't look at, your cross. I find it, offensive. And one of you said they got some bad jujus from this after I told them what it was. I'm like, it's literally just cheap metal. It was not even cheap. Actually, it's pretty nice. But I'm like, you're reading into things, right? Because again, we all know that the band Ghost is not truly satanic. I mean, they just do satanic music, but they don't believe any of that stuff. So they could say, oh, well, it's still not Christian. Okay. But at the same token, one, I would have been an asshole for asking them to do that. I would have been totally somebody would have been, thought of us as a jerk to say, oh, yeah, put away a cross. And of course, that would be religious persecution. But they found it no problem to ask me to do the same. Or to put it away, right? Which to me is a little bit of Christian hypocrisy, because if my internal monologue that was happening at the time was like, look, if you are a Christian and you believe Jesus is going to be the all-powerful savior of everything else, then I don't think that this is going to bother him at all somehow. It's just you'll be protected, right? So I just thought there was a little hypocrisy there, and that kind of spiraled into other things that I was talking to people about Christians saying one thing but doing another, because that's really what hypocrisy is, right? It's almost like a performance contradiction. It's you saying or advocating something but doing something else.
Well, yeah, another way to put it is the quintessential do as I say, not as I do. Now, here's something to where I would go further and say that it was more than just a little hypocritical for them to react that way. Because what is one of the 10 Commandments? Worship.
There's 10 of them.
What's one of them?
Thou shalt have no other gods before me.
Or do not worship idols. Now, that whole idol worship thing is often really construed as a reaction to a physical object, as if it is a manifestation or has been blessed by a deity. Didn't you say one of these people said that it was giving them weird vibes? Yeah. That's really bordering on idol worship, if that was legit.
Well, that's what I mean. That's what it meant in the Bible, right? When they say idol worship, it literally was some kind of holy, sanctified thing by some other god that they're talking about, if I remember correctly. It wasn't like what we now in modernity would consider to be idolatry in the non-classical sense of like money, right? People that worship money rather than God. But in the biblical scripture, from what I recall, back in the days when I actually went to seminary and stuff like that, or what I mean, they actually call it seminary. It wasn't Catholic seminary, it was like the school before, like you go to school, the little Bible classes, and it was basically objects that have been from gods, but not Yahweh specifically, something along those lines.
Yeah, Baal is one of them.
Baal,
yeah.
Baal. Mephistopheles, Asmodeus, Yaldabaoth. That's that, by the way. I was just talking about that the other day. Do you guys ever looked into Gnosticism? Just out of curiosity, like actual Gnosticism.
I haven't done it in quite a while.
Yeah,
fascinating subject. But anyways, so continue about why you think it was hypocrisy, because again, I just couldn't imagine myself saying that to any Christian, right? One, I'm not offended by it, and two, and if I did, would a Christian have done the same thing? Would a Christian have said, no, okay, fine, I'll put my cross away? Would they said, no, man, this is my religious belief, and I'm protected by this, or whatever they want to say, and they have every right to, right? I mean, obviously, if you ask them to do something they don't, they have no obligation or duty to do so. I just didn't want to cause a problem, and it wasn't a big issue to me.
So there is a nuance here in that there is already a relationship and a knowledge of each other.
True.
So that's where you flip it. I could see, had you asked one of them of it, the question being there would have been accepted in that, hey, we know each other, we're friends. I'm 50-50 on how the reaction would have been, because in my mind, my understanding of how Christians are to behave, the cross wouldn't have been on prominent display to begin with. Because the whole thing about walking the path and being a true prophet and light of God has been espoused from many different faiths, is you project yourself as an arbiter and as an example of how to behave through your actions itself, not your words, not your rhetoric, not just speak nicely, but actually do the right thing. Treat people the way they deserve to be treated, or even better than they deserve to be treated given the circumstances, regardless of their faith and affiliation, and regardless of whether or not you have a history and a background with them.
Yeah. Oh, I actually totally agree, because there's some familiarity there. It would have been a different story for some strangers, obviously, right? If they're strangers, but asked me to put it away, I probably would have had a completely different response, to be honest with you.
Yeah, so that's where when you actually step back and take as close to an unbiased view of the behaviors of theists and non-theists, you do start to see that there is a lot of that hypocrisy in what they say versus how they act on a regular basis. And if you want a prime, glaring example of this, go watch any Christian pre-supper.
I'd rather not. I haven't watched a pre-supper in many years, and my sanity level has thanked me for it. Those pre-suppers, I thought they all died out. I thought pre-suppers dead. I had not I had not seen it. Maybe it's just me being out of the scene for a while, but I thought pre-suppers dead. Oh, lo and behold, I found I was wrong. No, there's still people running pre-sup argumentation.
Yeah.
Oh, Steve, one of your favorite pre-suppers is looping back around again, because good old Darth Dawkins himself. People thought that he had gone away because of the platform called Clubhouse. Well, he got ran off of Clubhouse by other Christians.
That does not surprise me. I mean, he was ran off Pal Talk originally, then he was ran off Google Hangouts, then he was ran off Discord. I don't know.
Oh, and then he went to Clubhouse. Now he's been ran off Clubhouse, and he's back to Discord.
Yeah, it's pretty bad when even Christians are like, dude, just don't speak for us. Just stop. You know. So let me ask you guys this. Like I said, had the situation has been like completely like reversed, what would you guys have done? I mean, no, you know what? Not even a reverse situation. If you were in my situation, how would you have handled it?
If they were my friends, I probably would have handled it the same way as you did. If it was some stranger, I wouldn't have said fuck off, but something to that effect with many, many words.
I probably would have inquired more, you know, but here's the thing. Like, you guys know Braxton Hunter, right? The theist. You ever watch him?
Familiar with the name, haven't watched much of his stuff.
I can't remember.
I haven't watched anything.
Channel. It's his channel's called oh shoot, I don't remember. He's gonna kill me. Sorry, Braxton, I don't remember, dude. But anyways, Trinity something or other, Trinity something. But anyways, he had a video that he was trying to explain to Christians. He said, hey, if you want to convert the non-believer, the best way to do it is not by some kind of advanced argumentation. It's not by throwing out modal logic. It's not by running cosmological or ontological arguments. It is living your life as a Christian and showing people by example, doing what you believe, and them wondering, what is it about this person that makes them happy? What is it? How are they such a, morally good person or something like that? And I'm not saying you have to be Christian to be moral, obviously, but I mean, they are being moral, and they're being ethical, and they're treating people with respect, and they're living what they would perceive an actual Christian would be, as if Christ was saying, this is how I want you to be. And that would cause more non-believers to go, yeah, let's look into this more, right? Because a non-believer sees a Christian doing something that's hypocritical and contrary to what I think, Jesus would have taught. That's an instant turnoff. We don't want to even live no more. I mean, look, Jared, some guy told me the other day, he said, I've talked to God. I know God's real. And I'm like, okay, what denomination did he tell you was right? He didn't get an answer, right? But this guy's also Young Earth Creationist. And it's just like, okay, I know Young Earth Creation is wrong. So if God told you Young Earth Creation is right, God either lied to you or you got the wrong God.
Well, here's a question for you. Was that person's name John Lee?
No, but I know John. Yeah. John Lee,
he's special.
He's one of a kind. I'll give him that. But anyways, I think a theist may have called into the, or joined us. Hey, can I read your name?
Absolutely.
Well, yeah, you joined, so I guess why not? Thinking Orthodox, and I'm going to take that as possibly be theist.
Yep.
Christian.
Yes,
Christian with a mic with like two styrofoam cups and a string between them, right?
Pretty much. I'm trying to keep everything within earbuds so that people around me don't get disturbed or whatever.
Oh, no worries. No, hey, I got earbuds too, man. I got these earbuds a little while ago. Check these little bad boys out. Look at that. Aren't they nice? Look at that. Yes. So, but I just prefer headphones for some reason. I kind of do more of a, not noise cancellation, but they back any kind of background noise. But anyway, so go ahead, Jared.
Well, it's comfort for the over-the-ear headphones too.
Yeah, they're comfortable. Oh, Leo, thank you, Leo. Leo says Trinity Radio. I'm sorry, Braxton. He's never going to talk to me ever again. Thank you, Leo. Trinity Radio. I can't believe I forgot that. But anyways, so Thinking Orthodox. So what do you have to weigh in on? Do you think that there's some kind of Christian hypocrisy going on here?
Absolutely. And one of the biggest issues that Orthodox scholars actually notice is that a big issue is a big fundamentalism that has actually occurred in the 19th century, and it was continued to allow to fester eating into the 20th century, and it's just coming home to roost. Basically, the Protestants have made their bed; they're going to have to lay in it. So, for example, what's the name of the guy that you said that it got lost in memory? The guy that said God spoke to him.
Oh, it was somebody on Facebook. It was in a Facebook group.
Okay, so here's something that's problematic with that. If you actually go into writings of actual mystics like the Desert Fathers, or even Gregory of Saint Gregory of Nyssa, Saint Simeon the New Theologian, Saint Gregory the Theologian, I can name a bunch of them. You go into those, there's actually an authenticity. There is actually a radical change from. There's always when those people that actually have had an experience with God, as one of my priests said, if you have two minutes of an experience with God, you get spoiled for life. They get changed radically. Saint Simeon the New Theologian had multiple experiences, but you can tell that he was a very humble person. He also always said, "I am unworthy of leading these people," and he also said, "Prayer should be done with tears, tears of repentance." So one of the big things with Christianity is like true Christian thought is that life needs to be doxological, meaning prayerful. And that doesn't mean you're not gonna think, you're not gonna read, you're not gonna study history, but you have to do that stuff with a lot of thanksgiving, being appreciative of other people, being, if you're gonna go out and work in a soup kitchen, you don't do it boastfully or anything like that. I mean, we all get that. The biggest qualm that I have with a lot of the Christian hypocrisy going on, and I use the term loosely, is that there happens to be kind of a holier than thou situation going on. I think Kent Hovind is a good example of that.
My buddy Kent, yeah, Kent and I go way back. That's for sure.
I can go on and on and on. And especially if you are corrected on things, you should be able to be comfortable in your skin. And I think Dr. Constantino wrote a book called Thinking Orthodox. And one of the lessons that she actually writes in there to people that are new is there are fields that you have to spend years in just to get just a surface level mastery in. And you got to be able to be comfortable in your skin. You're limited. We are all limited. There's no problem saying, "Hey, I don't know." And so it's the biggest problem I'm having is this fundamentalism that occurred in the 19th century and has come home to roost, has created a problem of pride. And so now they're trying, a lot of them will reject the church fathers, the 7 ecumenical councils. They'll reject anything that rubs against their theology, which tells them you got to correct yourself. And that's kind of the reason why it's very important for Christians to have precedent back into the ancient tradition, because that's actually our grounding. That's how we keep ourselves humble.
What's funny is I don't have much pushback for what you've said so far. I really don't. I actually probably is in accordance with a lot of what you said, and for a multitude of different reasons. One of which, I thought to myself the same thing. If someone has seen God, somebody has spoken with God, sat and chatted with God, and got to ask God all the great questions that many of us want answered, it would be life-changing. It would be life-changing. It would be fundamentally at the core of your being, something that that changes who you are, like literally changes who you are, because you would have knowledge of something that is just the ultimate question of life, or at least to some degree. I mean, obviously, even with God exists, it still doesn't answer a lot of things. I mean, but to have access to a being that could answer a lot of questions would be amazing, correct? I mean, it still would be far outside of our regular normal understanding of the universe. Our naturalistic view of the universe would be shattered, clearly. And so I think that it would fundamentally change somebody. And so when I see people saying that they talk to God, and they say, oh, yeah, and the earth is 7,000 years old, obviously I dismiss what they have to say, because no God's going to tell them this. This is just no God is going to, no benevolent God, right? A truth God is going to lie to somebody and say, hey, I exist, and the earth is 7,000 years old. It just wouldn't make no sense to me for that.
There's a step there that actually goes even before that. If there actually is that sort of deity that can have that sort of interaction with one of us lesser beings, I agree with both of you. There would be a fundamental change to where a person walking away from that experience would not be a raging asshole.
Right. And you know what's funny? You'd probably be scared crapless for the rest of your life. You'd be so worried that everything you did would offend this being, and you'd be damned for eternity knowing that it actually exists. That'd be horrifying.
Yeah, well, actually, it's there. Actually, I'll disagree there with you on the horrifying piece, because actually there is a mystic called Saint Moses the Black, and I'm about to go. I haven't read his biography except for in snippets, but what is clear from what I have been able to ask the experts on his biography, and I do have it. I have a couple copies of it, but what from what I could glean from it is that he was a gang member. He was an Ethiopian gang member, basically in the much more ancient times. So they had gang members back then, and he was a thug. But he did have that mystical experience eventually with God, and it radically changed him. He went from thug to sage. And but what is really clear, what I think Hovind and all those fundies really miss, is kind of the point of Genesis, is creation is a temple. It's actually temple theology. The Hebrews. So really, the argument is, from people that are educated on the ancient Near Eastern context of it, is in a nutshell, is it's not about, even though the Hebrews for a while had an understanding of a flat Earth, it wasn't that God wasn't trying to correct that so much as trying to correct the heart. Because when all is said and done, because it is temple theology, the point is having that correct relationship. It's not about science. It's not about geography or anything like that. So they completely misrepresent the text, and also that goes back to the same thing. So if you understand the proem of John 1 through 18. It's also understood that it's an ancient midrash of Genesis 1. Once you understand the logos theology, and I know this is some complex stuff, but I'm just going to go through it quick. Once you understand the logos theology of the second temple period, again, it goes back to relationship, that mystical experience of changing from again, like Saint Moses the Black, from Ethiopia, from thug to mystic to sage. That basically it what unnerves me the most is with those fundies is they have, with all that misrepresentation, and I could go into the complexity of it all, and spend hours on it here. But the problem with that, the problem with those fundies is that they have completely misrepresented the church fathers. They have completely misrepresented the ancient Near Eastern texts. They completely misrepresented ancient church history. They've completely misrepresented the desert fathers, the councils, everything like that. And not only that, they've disregarded them. So you want to know why they're in the heap of trouble that they're in right now. I mean, it doesn't take 2 seconds to think why disregarding the precedent set before them. That's why it says, be careful to obey the tradition that we've handed down to you. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have knowledge in science. That doesn't mean you can't learn other things. But it is very important to respect what has been passed down from the older generation. And this is so.
Well, I wouldn't have expected early man to have the understandings of science that we have now.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, so yeah, even though flat Earth was probably never that really prevalent. I mean, sure, there's the whole, dome theology in a lot of different cultures, but for the most part, we knew early on that the Earth was not flat. I mean, they were, Aristophanes did his experiment in what was I don't remember BC, but it was a long time ago. Okay, so the Greeks knew.
Well, yeah, and it's also. Oh, I interrupted. The other thing that is very clear too is. What is very clear is that the fundies don't realize that the idea of ex nihilo starts evolving from Babylon. Babylon actually did have a big influence on the Greeks. That is very clear. Herodotus wrote about that, and he agreed with that, and he traveled that area. So the Hebrews had some influence on it when you actually go to Esther and some other texts in the scriptures. It's also very clear that there is a grammatical construct within Genesis 1 that leaves the idea of how old the earth is open. So, and then also when you understand how calendars work in the ancient Near East, when all is said and done, the age of the earth and everything in there doesn't really freaking matter.
Right. No, and really, I agree. It would never be a salvational issue. But see, Hovind has made it more of a salvational issue because it's all about Hovind. I mean, I take it you're an older creationist then?
Yeah, basically okay. It is. All the evidence points towards that, and even. But when you actually, if you would have shown both. If an ancient Hebrew was to learn everything that we know now on scientifically, not everything, but basics of it, they would look at it like, okay, we understand the salvific issues of a temple text, and this is how God did yada yada yada. Okay, I'm okay with it.
Yeah. So why is people like Hovind going around? Spewing one thing that we know, we know the science is wrong. We all, I think Jared, you've engaged with Hovind before, right?
Only a couple times.
Yeah.
He doesn't like me.
Yeah, he doesn't like a lot of people. Yeah. Anybody who gives him pushback. He never said he said he would never come back. But since I had Cindy, Lincoln, his wife, on a few times, he did leave a comment on the video. With his diatribe saying that he would, come on and refute all that stuff. But I talked to Cindy. I'm like, I just don't see the need to have Ken Hovind on to do that because it isn't about the science. It is about domestic relationship that he had with his wife. But even still, even have him come on about talking about creationism again, to what value would it have? Because I'm convinced 100% that Hovind is either he doesn't actually believe what he believes, or worse, he believes it, but he's such a narcissistic charlatan that he doesn't care one way or another. It's all about him. He uses young earth creationism as a vehicle to promote his own self-interest, not that of Christianity. I'm absolutely convinced of that.
I can see that, and part of it also too is one thing to point out that really grates at young earth creationists is just to point out one thing. That if their image of God is true and accurate, all-knowing, all-loving, all-truth-bearing, give them all the omni properties that they want, and the biggest one is the always truthful. God does not lie. If God does not lie, then why create a world that is far younger than what all of our methodology of discerning its age would tell us that it is.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that even a lot of the younger creationists, though, will say. They don't accept like the Omphalos hypothesis. They don't accept last Tuesdayism. They believe that Earth was not created with the appearance of of age, even though it's much younger. Although some have accepted that. Some actually say, they have said that yes, the appearance of age, but it's to test us or something like that. It makes no sense whatsoever. But most of them will accept that the appearance, is maybe our misunderstandings or something like that, or their understanding. Because you have to realize that a younger creationist who follows younger creationism to the letter cannot question it. They believe that any science that comes about that will show that young creation is wrong must be wrong by fiat. In other words, there's no argumentation for it. This is how it is. The Earth is young. If anything says otherwise, it is not correct. Therefore, it's not the appearance of being old. It's just that people are understanding that what they're looking at or something like that. They're not processing it correctly, even though anybody who's taken any courses in science, every single discipline of science and across the board all has consilience that the Earth is about 5.4 billion years, plus minus 200 years. So Hovind, like I said, I believe 100% that he just uses that because it's his niche. That is his mechanism to get out to Christians that he can have donate to him, because I believe he's an absolute flim-flam artist. And yes, people in the live chat, I'm aware of the stuff that he's had going on at Dinosaur Adventureland. That place seems to me like it'd be a cult compound. That's how it's ran. And by the way, do you guys remember back in the day when I'll just say his name, whatever, I don't care anymore, Kyle, who tried to take this channel from me. He had actually made a deal with Kent that, and I don't remember what the bet was, but if we lost the bet, he and I had to fly to Dinosaur Adventureland for like a weekend to work there. Do you remember that?
I remember there being mention of it, and honestly, that would have been interesting.
I would have done
see.
it. I don't welch on my bets, right? I mean, I pride myself on keeping my promises, and if I would have made that bet, but see, the thing was, I didn't agree to this. But I was like, I didn't agree to this. I wouldn't want to go. That place is scary.
So something that sorry, there's something that kind of unnerves me with him too is that he tries to do. He tries to do, I could go on and on with this, but another thing of fundamentalist hypocrisy is when I bring up like the Greek patristics, who naturally understood the Greek, who would have been reading in Greek, who would have been masters in the Greek. When I bring up for example, he will what's something he'll try to bring up he'll bring up like this various things like God is like he'll try to do a literal thing on he'll try to say all these ages are literal, for example.
Yeah. The chronology in the Bible, he takes very literal.
Yeah, that's not that literalism is not found in the early Greek patristics. It's not found in there. I promise you. Even what's his name? What is it? Timothy O'Neill. He's done a fantastic study on that.
History for Atheists.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know Tim.
He's done a fantastic study on that literalism issue.
Tim's brilliant.
Yeah, and he's he definitely breaks it down he breaks it down easily for people to understand, because St. Basil was a brilliant guy, and and this is the sad part too. There is actually a fundamentalism that has kind of popped its ugly head up in Orthodoxy, and we're trying to quash it now because they're misrepresenting St. Basil and his arguments. So it's kind of, so I'm telling you,
So, what do you think is more affront? What's more dangerous to modern Christianity? When you have these fundamentalists out there that are being, having hypocrisy, hypocritical, putting out gross, misleading scientific information, being very haughty, being very egotistical, very narcissistic, making it all about them. Because again, if God did exist, the way they have acted would be contrary to what I would think Jesus would have ever taught, and contrary to someone who actually believes Jesus is the Son of God, and you have to believe in have salvation, or even if it wasn't just Christianity, it doesn't even have to be Christianity. It could be any religion where you have a basis of your salvation in the hands of some kind of all-powerful being. If that all-powerful being did exist, yeah. I mean, I can't imagine myself not like living in a state of fear. I mean, even when I was a theist, and that wasn't very long, but even when I was a theist, I never had any like experience with God. I mean, I had a feeling. I had something that did happen to me. I had a sensation. That much I know is fact. But it wasn't like it was like so surreal that it couldn't have been attributed to natural causes. I never spoke to Jesus. I never saw Jesus. And so even when I became a Christian, it was, okay, I experienced this, therefore this all must follow. And then after later on, and I learned a little bit more logic and reason and things of that nature, there's a disconnect there. Just because you experience something doesn't mean it has to be from that, unless, you sit there and talk to Jesus himself. And when I have people claim to me that, they've spoken to Jesus and Jesus has spoken back to them and they've had a conversation, they've seen God, obviously some red flags go up. And mostly because they're not acting in accordance to what I would imagine if somebody actually saw that kind of being. And you had mentioned earlier, Thinking Orthodox, that in the, whoever it was, they had Black, what was his name? Something Black?
Saint Moses the Black, when basically
he had a fundamental change in life, right?
Yeah. He went basically from gangbanger to mystic to sage.
Right, and I would expect that. See, again, it's all about expectations of evidence, right? What would we expect to see if it's the case? There is an old saying, evidence of absence is not absence. Absence of evidence isn't evidence of absence. However, that doesn't necessarily always hold true. It does in Bayesian, actually, in Bayesian theory, but for the most part, it's usually when we have an expectation of evidence. When we say, okay, if this is the case, if God does exist, what we would expect to see. And if people actually had seen God, I would expect them to be fundamentally changed and probably scared shitless, to say the least. At least I know I would be. It would not be something I would want to experience even.
Yeah, well, here's some, like, what another. There was a book about it. There was a guy that did a so-called documentary of his experience in hell. Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things, this is where I kind of got frustrated with it, because I'm like, I'm pretty well read in Western literature, and I've read Dante's Divine Comedy,
mm-hmm.
and other things influenced by it.
Yeah, Dante's Inferno, Divine Comedy is amazing. Yeah.
Gorgeous, but a very difficult piece to translate into English. Not for any other reason that there's a certain structure of poetry that flows well with Italian, but not in English. But basically, a lot of the ideas of what hell is, and this is effect of the dialogue as well. Yeah,
it came from a story. Yeah.
So what we have to what we see in the ancient mystics that have had those mystical experiences, actually seeing angels, so seraphim and whatnot, not these little cupid things, but
warriors of God. The seraphim were the warrior angels. They were supposed to terrify people.
Well, they basically are. Basically, the way they are described, wheels within wheels with all these eyes and whatnot. And then also the cherubim have like 6 wings and whatnot, and they're covering faces. You can read all that.
Yeah.
But the main point here is when they do go and bring a message to somebody, they tell them, "Don't be afraid." They calm them down. dude,
because
chill.
a person would be pretty. I mean, let me ask. Okay, so Jay, you've been kind of silent. Let's say you're sitting around one night. You're lucid, so you're not like tripping or balls or anything like that. You're lucid, and all of a sudden, this seraphim comes into your room. White light everywhere. Multiple eyes. They have like 6 sets of eye. I don't know. And then these majestic wings, and they're like, "Don't be afraid, but I have a message for you, Jay." How would you respond to that?
I would look for make sure I have an empty bottle of vodka or something around, because that's probably what it is. However, I would ask questions like, okay, what's the message?
Mm-hmm.
Can I ask some questions back to, make sure I'm not hallucinating,
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that. You would be testing it. Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
I mean,
let's assume that is legit. Let's say that actually is an angelic
if
being.
If it's
Sorry,
legit,
I'm gonna have to check your ID.
Well, one of the biggest things too is I also remember a book called a divine revelation of heaven, and this lady is claiming that she went to heaven and da da da. I'm like, no, lady.
I've seen a lot of those. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people claim that.
Yeah, so and the problem with that is if you actually read Ezekiel and John, they actually fell when they were in the room of God. They fell down like they were dead, because it's one of those things. They're in front of His glory. So it's one of those things. Humans cannot withstand that. So what it is, so you'll find that they completely misrepresent that, and it's so. What is very clear though is that you'll find that the people that actually have this mystical experience, and I do recommend people reading the Desert Fathers, whether you agree with them or not. They were some of the most loving people that people could ever meet, and when they went into the cities, people were like shocked. Why are they so different from everyone around us? Why is their demeanor better? Why are they so humble? Why are they, they have this knowledge of God, but they are not acting afraid. And it's because one big thing that has happened with Protestantism is that it has adopted a legalism from Catholicism in the Latin West from Augustine. And they have forgotten that has happened, and something that they have to incorporate actually from the East is what they call the love of God. Unfortunately, they haven't really done that. They focus so heavily on legalism that they forget actually what the teaching of sin really is in the ancient church.
Well, that's more agape love, right?
There's more than one word in Greek for, and agape doesn't necessarily mean unconditional love.
Right. But here's the thing: the being you're describing, though, and I want everybody's opinion on this. I've obviously read the Bible. The Old Testament being, the being that's usually attributed to be Yahweh in the Old Testament, is a fundamentally different property being than the one in the New Testament. There's a different message completely, even though it says that Jesus came to fulfill the law, wouldn't change one iota, one tittle, nothing. But the being that's being described in the Old Testament is literally more, to me, more of a Gnostic god. And I was mentioning before you came in about Yaldabaoth, which is a trickster god, very similar to Loki. And that Jesus was the messenger letting people know that Yaldabaoth, a.k.a. Yahweh, was not the true God. That was the God that created this world, but not that of the heavens, was the Pledmora. And he said that all people have this wisdom, this knowledge, this divine spark that's inside themselves, that they could find out the truth. And the being that being described in that Old Testament is very similar to the way the Gnostics looked at it, is that this was just a very malicious being. I mean, sending plagues and asking to sacrifice your firstborn, and vengeful and vain, and just somebody that would be feared. And then in the New Testament, it just did a 180. It was, no, this is not a being that should be feared. This is a loving, all caring, all compassionate being which is diametrically opposite from what's being described in the Old Testament. I mean, how do you reconcile that?
This is actually the way I reconcile it.
By the way, do you agree though? I mean, you don't have to agree they're two different beings, but are they described differently? From what I said to you, do you at least agree that they are described very differently?
I disagree, actually, and the reason being is
you're gone. No, I'm just kidding.
That there's actually. One of the that's actually that thing can be a show of itself, and after what is very, very clear, and sorry about the echo, I'm in a room that does echo, and I can't. Welcome to certain apartments.
No worries.
One of the big things that is very, very clear, that going back to the ancient Near Eastern method, is if you actually look at the progression, if you actually look at the progression that is going on, so. First off, let me go back. I'm putting the cart before the horse. The ancient Christian way of thinking of sin is that sin is a disease. And actually, the ancient Eastern Christian method of looking at sin actually has a much more positive view. For example, that Adam and Eve were like when God kicked them out of the garden, it was actually out of mercy, because if they would have consumed that fruit after they have sinned, they would have had to live with that debauchery forever, and it would have been basically hell on earth for them. That's one thing. But a lot of people don't actually. Let's go to Genesis 6, for example. An issue with that one that a lot of people don't get is the text itself is a legend. And but the legend itself, the legend that is found in the ancient Near East is actually of mercy. For example, the water actually represents watery chaos, when the divine beings come down and mate with humans in that legend, and actually corrupt the seed of humanity, God is undoing creation, saving people, a line that is pure, renewing creation, and allowing humanity to flourish again. So it doesn't. So in the
hang on 1 second, because you're kind of going a little bit further than we need to go. But I mean, you're not a young creation, so how do you fit in Adam and Eve in the creation story? I mean, obviously, if the Earth is very, very old, the fall never happened. I mean, there's no such people as Adam and Eve. There's no first people.
Actually, this is the reason why, because it doesn't. If you actually go into the Hebrew, it doesn't actually absolutely say they were the first people. Mm-hmm. It actually, if you go into the Hebrew text, and the way that a temple text works is that they were created to be, basically Adam was created to be the high priest within the tabernacle, which was Eden. So there you go. You got temple literature going on right there. So that temple theology, even though they would have understood it as being true, it doesn't matter whether it's true or not, because they are not in the sense of literal. What matters is the fact that Adam would have been a high priest, and that doesn't mean he was that doesn't mean he was the first person. And again, it goes back to the thing that.
But the Bible says that. I mean, the Bible literally is advocating the position that Adam and Eve were the first people ever to populate the earth in the Garden of Eden, and then, well, it's actually Adam, of course, and then God made Eden from his rib. Yeah. One of the better people the person that explains it better is and actually two people that explain it better than me, and is Ben
Stanhope.
I think I said Ben Shapiro for some reason.
I was going to say that. I was going to say,
yeah, okay. Let's go with that.
Ben Stanhope and Mark Jones of Inspiring Philosophy actually break it down much better than I do.
Michael
Jones.
Yeah, Michael Jones from Inspiring Philosophy. Yeah. No, Michael's well read. Michael's a great guy. I happen to like Michael. Matter of fact, I had Cindy go on his channel with Mary. I don't know if you saw that episode.
I have a question here for you that might actually end up clearing things up for anyone that's listening now live and later on. Do you take the creation story that is laid out in the Bible as a literal telling or a metaphorical?
I take it actually as a metaphorical.
Okay, that explains a lot on how you are explaining the intent and methodology behind the storytelling and what it's actually supposed to be representing. Because your young Earth creationists, you're people who really are giving not just Christianity, but all of the Abrahamic religions as a whole a bad name, are the people who are sticking to a literal interpretation of the text.
The literalist,
Well, one of the things that they also forget too is the Hebrews didn't. So as the Hebrews they would make arguments, but they didn't make arguments like the Greeks did. They told arguments through narrative. So when you understand, there is a fantastic book on it. I forgot what it is, and I wish I'd brought it with me. But there is so basically what has come, the new research that's coming out that's showing the Mesopotamian way of storytelling and showing argument through storytelling actually does clarify that. What is another thing, for example?
How about the flood? How about the storytelling for the flood?
It's that right there is a legend. It is absolutely a legend. There are multiple flood stories. Now, I'm not saying correlation equals causation, but it is clear that Moses did have a source that he drew from that we don't have access to today.
What do you mean? Like, what do you mean you drew from a source? Like, for example, I think there was localized flooding. I do think that that flood narrative, did happen as far as a localized flood. It happened many, many times, and there's other cultures out there that had very similar, stories. I mean, Gilgamesh has a very similar story. So this has been around for a long time. The Popol Vuh and the Mayan culture had the same story.
That's exactly it. It's the fact that you have these pockets of culture popping up through history that are not directly related to the area,
completely different
but you still have some common themes coming through. And while some people interpret that as divine inspiration and a common history, whereas other people who realize the methodology of the communication, where it was more allegory, it was more storytelling and those sorts of tells to get the message across, that where people establish themselves to get the civilization going is going to be near a healthy water source and fertile hunting grounds, which most of the time is going to be next to a river. And when you take a look at the rivers that all these individual pockets sprang up around, they had flood seasons. I mean, even just look at the ancient Egyptians. They needed the Nile to flood the lower delta area just so they could have their crops to survive.
But also look at the fact that the Hebrews in what is it called? There's a book called Mesopotamian Cosmic Geography. Fantastic work, but it is technical. It is densely written. But it's manageable. It is definitely manageable. But in a nutshell, the ancient Mesopotamian area actually did believe in more of a snow globe. I'm not going to say the literal snow globe, but I'll use it as a reference point. Kind of a snow globe in which there was a flat Earth. There was a literal vault of the sky that was solid, and they had
dome, so to speak.
Yeah, and it varied. The makeup of it varied from area to area. There was a lot of times a serpent that traveled underneath the world that shook it up. So they had earthquakes with that. The big thing on this again is they are arguing via narrative. They didn't do formal argument. It was very much an oral culture. And that's the biggest problem is that the fundies actually misrepresent that so badly. And so this is actually very rich, very beautiful literature, and I think what's his name explains it much better than frickin' what they can do is Philip Schaff actually says it in his introduction to his history of Christianity, is that the Hebrew, so basically the way he explains it is God inspired the Hebrews to bring the religion for modern civilization. God inspired the Romans to bring the law, the rule of law, and the Greeks to bring intellect. Well, not intellect, but basically the academy. So when all is said and done, basically the first century was basically that very right era to bring everything together.
But there was a lot of competition back in the first and second century. I mean, after the Hellenistic period, there was a lot of. I mean, you had obviously the councils, the ecumenical councils, the Council of Nicaea. You had Gnosticism was pretty prevalent actually. So I mean, Christianity was having to fight all these different forces. But why would real quick? Because we're kind of running long on time, but. Because I do want to end this in 90 minutes because we got things to do tonight. It's Veterans Day. But here's what I don't understand about the whole mindset of that. First of all, most of us are not theologians. I have no interest in theology. I just don't. I love epistemology. I love philosophy. I love science. But theology itself as a subject is just not a passion that I have. And people do, and that's fine. I'm not going to study all those things like you've obviously been well read on. I'm not a Thomist. I could read about Aquinas and appreciate his writings because at the time Aquinas had was a scholar. I mean, he's brilliant. But now in 2023, a lot of those things just don't seem the same as it would to somebody 2,000 years ago. So if God is like not changing and God is like the same as he always is, why did back then did he have such the language that he was using to try to impart these types of things to people so they can understand concepts that might have been beyond their level to understand at the time? Because if God does exist, it would be very complicated. I do believe that. But for us, for like myself as a non-resistant non-believer, I'm not going to jump through all those hoops to learn all that stuff in order to have a conversation with God or to understand what it is that he wants or why he wants it or live my life in accordance to what what he thinks. Because again, if it all goes back to that sin, if I knew God existed, I'm going to be asking him every other day, can I do this? Can I do that? What do I, give me guidance, and be living in fear that if I don't do something correct, this very vengeful God, and have this sin, as you put it, as a disease, is going to affect me for eternity, even though I'm only on the planet for, 100 years at most, kind of give or take.
Well, that would actually go into something else that goes into the issue of kenosis and theosis, and that. So when all is said and done, that's the big thing about the Western mindset that unfortunately Kent Hovind and other fundies find themselves in. And I actually don't blame you guys for having these misunderstandings on these theological matters, because guess what? Dickhead over there
Yeah,
cause
look,
a lot
I'm
of
okay with having misunderstandings of theological matters because I don't study theology. But what's more of an affront to God, though? Someone like Ken Hovind, who's doing it for his own self-interest, that I believe absolutely is dishonest. I've seen Kent lie. I mean, we've all seen Kent lie. Kent lies. This is a fact, okay? I don't care what anybody says. I know firsthand Kent lies. I've seen him do it on this channel. He did it with he lied so many times when I arranged for to have him come on, and he debated Arn. Afterwards, he just completely changed what actually had happened. I'm like, that's not how it went down. That's not, because I mean, I don't. Did you ever watch that? Thinking, or have you watched Ken on my channel?
I've watched him, but I haven't really kept up with him because I've had my own things I've been trying to get done, and I'm also, one of the big things too is I want to actually go to seminary, and it's very, very one of the better seminaries, not the fundy seminaries, the one that actually teach you the Greek.
Yeah, no, and I'm cool with that. Look, that's an education. I have absolutely no issue with that whatsoever, and I wish you the best in it. But as somebody like myself or Jared or Jay, we're not going through that, right? So which is more on the front, though? Somebody like Ken Hovind or three of us, and I would put I would say that probably Jared and Jay are non-resistant non-believers. If God said, "Hey, I exist," and they were of sound state of mind, they'd be going, okay, cool. Maybe find it fascinating, even going, hey, this is like amazing. Let's have a conversation. I don't think they would be like, I know you exist now. I'm going to live my life like, I like it was yesterday. No, I think they'd be fundamentally changed as well. But to a Christian, we're three of us. We're fucked. We're screwed. We're and that makes no sense to me when here are three people that would be thrilled to know one way or another, I guess. Yes, maybe it would be, scary, and, you probably wouldn't want to know. But if we did, it would be something of interest to us, rather than somebody who like Hovind and Joel Osteen and Peter Popoff and
Ken Copeland,
Kenneth Copeland, all of them, Jimmy Swaggart, all the Ted Haggard, all these frauds, complete and utter frauds, doing things in the name of God that people see them doing, which is complete hypocrisy. Bring it full circle. They are the hypocrites. Myself, Jay, and Jared. Nothing we have done is hypocrisy. It would be hypocrisy because we're not, trying to present something that we're not ourselves doing. So, which is worse to God?
So when all is said and done, the people that act like Copeland, who are leading these I'm going to say these not even Christian
they're cult-like
groups.
things. I don't know what else to call them. I mean, I'm not a big fan of the word cult because it's thrown around so cavalierly. But I mean, some of those religious sects are pretty cult-like.
I'm going to call it mammonism, because mammonism, mammon, and the love of money. So I'm going to call it mammonism. So basically, just for now, basically mammonism. They're mammonists, and one of the big things that annoys me with that is a lot of people that are not trained to actually read the fathers and to read the councils and actually what was going on, even the desert fathers and even the sayings of them. They're going to look at Copeland. And they're going to be like, oh, yeah, he represents all these Christians. But I'm like, no. It's true. So one of the biggest problems that is happening in the West is one of the issues that's happening with these Western frauds is they're actually taking their 21st century mindset and throwing it right into they're trying to represent all of Christianity, the history of Christianity as X, Y, and Z, when it's really A, B, and C. And that unnerves me a lot, because here's the thing that annoys me is that I like to have a dialogue. I like to have a discussion.
We like dialogue too. And by the way, I really appreciate you coming on and talking about this stuff, because a lot of people have a lot of resentment toward religion, and I get that. There are some sects of religion that I find to be detrimental, no question about it. Faith healing I find to be abysmal. I find that people that tell people to throw away their prescription drugs and be faith healed, and then when they lose the endorphins that have released, days later, and they go back to having chronic pain, they're like, oh, you didn't have strong enough faith. It is not just a scam. It's evil. It's actual evil. And
So-
well, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So here's one of the big things, because the Eastern Church is so ancient. We actually get our what we call our phronema, our worldview, passed down to us from the fathers. We have a thing called we call it the middle way. And one of the things about middle way is, okay, it is taking your medicine. You're taking your prescription medicines that are life saving, for whatever X ailment it is actually a form of worship. The doctor has told you morally and legally, take this prescription drugs. It's okay to pray, but take them as well. That's still part of your worship.
No, I don't have any issue with that as a non-believer, Jared, Jay. I mean, if somebody follows the advice of doctors and wants to incorporate prayer in addition to any of that, more power there to them. This is what I get upset by, even by when atheists, start bashing on Christians for having their belief, bashing on Christians for, believing that, prayer works or something like that, when they're doing everything else they're supposed to do. It's just, at that point, it's supplementary. And I have no issue with that. None. I don't. I'm not an anti-theist. I believe that religion it can help some people. I believe that religion should not be mandated, by the government. I believe in secular separation of church and state. And I certainly don't think that if we had a button that would eliminate religion to push that, I don't think that would be very effective, and I don't think it's the right thing to do morally. If religion's to die out, it's going to be organically, I think.
Religion applied appropriately and used appropriately and not bastardized for ill intent is actually a benefit to a lot of humanity for that additional internal check system that some people actually do need assistance with.
Yeah, Adam Friendly, he makes that same argument.
Yeah, there is a mental health aspect that religion can help with if utilized in a healthy, appropriate manner.
It's a processing mechanism, like anything else.
But Steve, it's funny that you mentioned the whole thing about being an advocate for separation between church and state. Do you know who else was an advocate of that?
Jesus?
Jesus Christ himself.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I don't think he wanted a theocracy on earth, especially, given the time. Mankind, I'm sure if Jesus would know, mankind is not bright when it comes to this stuff. We're always going to have the worst possible state that we could. I mean, look at the elections. I mean, we elected people that are just complete, morons. I mean, so if there's going to be one prevalent religion out there that is somehow dominated in the government sector, it's not going to be the one that most people are going to believe, and it's certainly not going to be the correct one. It's just we're screwed when it comes to that kind of stuff. So I would think that every religious person out there would eschew a theocracy. They would not want government mandated religion, because I guarantee it, the flavor of the religion that they're going to get is not the one that they believe. And so as a non-believer, it makes more sense to me to say, okay, there's none. But of course, I believe in the First Amendment. I believe that the government should make no establishment, of no religion, but not prevent the exercise thereof. And so I think there's a fine balance to be had there. But when you have certain Christians out there that are like, oh, I would love to live, in a religious society where everybody is singing, kumbaya and believing the same thing, and we find in those societies, it is never a good thing. It is just it's groupthink. There's never any actual free thinking going on, and it's usually dangerous, and it's almost always bigoted and hateful and spiteful and vengeful, and the laws they have are immoral. So as a non-believer thinking, people say, well, you think you are more moral than God, which is not a claim that I've ever made. What I think is I would put my morality and how I view morals as a non-believer against what people have said is moral from God almost any day of the week. I mean, I would have those discussions because I happen to like moral theory, because the God that I see in the Old Testament to me is not portrayed as a moral being.
Well, one of the big issues that I have with the hypocrisy of Copeland too is it is very, very clear. It's very, very clear, unanimous across all the church fathers and all that, and the scriptures, that people like him are going to be held to account on a very, very high level. He's gonna have to explain, why is it that you live exuberantly in this multi-million-dollar mansion when you could have actually been a friend of the poor, or
Okay,
what
but
they call
then what? They die, they go to heaven, and God asks them, hey, why, instead of like clothing the naked, feeding the hungry, working at a soup kitchen, giving to charity, doing all these things that would be altruistic, which I believe is not something that actually exists. I don't believe pure altruism actually exists. But for the most part, when we do something, even though we get a minor gain from it, it is because we want to help people. We do get a rush from it. A lot of people like helping people because it makes themselves feel better about themselves. No problem. I mean, it's a benefit. I have absolutely no issue with that. But it's not strictly of self-sacrifice. It's not 100% altruistic. But if God asks you, it never is. Yeah, I don't think it can be as in human nature, and there's nothing wrong with that. But if God says, like Hovind, instead of doing all these things, you decided to prop yourself up as some kind of savior yourself, because he's got narcissism. He definitely is a savior complex. What he thinks, he's the bee's knees, and he has people working for free and violating their autonomy and their rights on his compound. And he says to him, okay, God, yeah, you know what? I messed up. I should have been, shoulda, woulda, coulda. That happens, in 3 seconds of heaven time. And then then what?
So basically, the way the fathers explain it in a nutshell, he's not, well, first off, when he goes to judgment, is now he's no longer going to be in the place of honor. He's actually it's not going to be a fiery pit or anything like that.
I'm on record. I believe that fiery place of hell does not exist. I'm an agnostic, and so I'm a non-believer, but I'm not an atheist. But I will go on record to say that I believe that fiery, damning, thing does not exist. That's from Dante mostly, and the Catholic Church.
Yeah. So basically, hell itself in the ancient church. When someone like Copeland and Hovind, if they go there, I'm saying if they go there and they don't repent and they really don't get on their knees and beg for complete forgiveness of what they've done, and I doubt they will.
Of course not. They're egotists. They're arrogant. Like, for myself, I don't know what I would have to beg forgiveness for. But if I had slighted somebody and hurt them, I would ask for forgiveness. If this being happens to be a God that for some reason I've slighted them, but I don't know why, to me, sin, the things that people tell me are sins, to me are sins. Even if God existed, it wouldn't be the case. If somebody tells me, oh, look, homosexuality is a sin, Leviticus and the 1613 mitzvahs, if you violate any of those, they're sins. First of all, they were never actually utilized. But second of all, that to me is not a sin. It cannot be a sin. So any violation to God that offends him because people are gay, I'm like, well, that's your problem, dude. I don't, he cannot convince me that that's a sin. Does it make sense?
Yeah. I get that. What I'm trying to explain is what the actual ancient church believes. And that's
fine. I respect that. But what are your beliefs, though, on that?
So, well, that's the thing is I'm going to actually go back to the precedent. Mm-hmm. So the precedent itself it's really, my thing is to actually go back to the ancient church and explain it from them. So remember, I'm Eastern Orthodox, so I'll go by precedent. So, and it's not that I'm cult. So my big worry is to actually become that fundy. I don't want to do that. Mm-hmm. And so going back to that, so someone like them would actually go in wherever hell is. It's not going to be a fiery pit. It's not going to be any of that. There's not going to be these demons torturing them like Dante Inferno. But what it is now they're going to be in a physical body. It's going to be a physical place, and they're going to be alive forever to remember forever all the things that they ever did. And they're also, in what the burn is going to be, is the fact is that it's going to be God's love, the love for others and everything like that. And it's going to be that thing that constantly reminds them of all the things they've ever done, and it's gonna be a cycle.
Are we gonna have perfect memory?
Basically, in there, they're gonna have perfect memory.
Because by the way, this leads into my next show, which is going to be on my main channel, my other channel, and I'm going to have an episode on this very thing about what is constitutive of a human being. I personally have kind of come to the realization that as somebody who's in existence, we are a collection of somehow just memories with intentionality. Unexplicably, we have unexplicably we have intentionality, and who knows why? But we have mental states. But those mental states are just a collection of memories. When those memories fade, we cease to be, or at least we cease to be that person that we were. We are literally based upon memories. And so if we had perfect memory, like perfect recall, and I don't mean like those people that can remember every day of their life. I find that to be a little questionable. But I mean, everything about their life, it would drive you insane. If you were just a mental state with no physical substrate, but you had every recollection of everything that's ever happened over billions and eons of eternity, you would literally go insane. You couldn't conceptualize. We're not, omnipotent beings. We're not omnibenevolent. We're not omniscient. We're not omnipotent. We're not any of the omni properties. So let me finish. So if we were in heaven and we'd have these different memories, it wouldn't be us. I don't know what it would be to have a body or a mind in a place called heaven, because it wouldn't be us. And what about the children that died before they even had a chance to live their life? They have no memories to draw upon.
Well, that's so going. We can go. I'm just going back to the Copeland thing, and I'm not ignoring what you're saying. No, that's fine.
Like I said, by the way, it's just something we'll be talking about on my next, and probably it's going to be tomorrow. I'm thinking about doing that show on my other channel.
So. Just to keep it more succinct, because I really I have it in for Copeland and people like him.
Oh, we do too. We think they're detestable human beings.
So when all is said and done, back to that physical body, basically renewal of creation, physical body reunited to soul. And basically perfect memory of everything that they've ever done. So since they're not in a place of honor, and yet God's love is there to remind them of what they've done. It's basically they're basically their own jailers on that. They've done it to themselves. Now on the flip, in heaven it's a place of honor. Basically, it's no longer people are going to be busy singing praises, singing hymns, and it's going to be basically a perfect liturgy for.
But you're still going to remember everything you did. You said.
But that is true. But then you also have the blessing of you have the blessing of God, but all the sins are basically forgiven. So they have been forgiven. But Copeland has already shown that he's not worshiping God. He's not living a life of repentance, which is what Christianity really is living that life of repentance. If he was really living a life of repentance, you wouldn't see him making shit up. You wouldn't see him asking people that probably don't even have the mental capacity to understand the money that they're sending out.
I agree. They prey on the weak. They absolutely prey on the weak, the disabled, the mentally impaired, the elderly, which to me is the most egregious thing possible. I mean, when you're preying on people that don't have the wherewithal, the mental acuity, the intellect, or the psychological stability, because they believe them. I mean, they're saying, hey, look, I mean, by the way, speaking of donations, Amanda D, thank you very much for the super chat, $2.99 Australian. Happy Saturday. Obviously, Amanda's in the future, Australian, their future time. So I do appreciate that. I hope she has the psychological state to to donate, because I don't want to take any money from elderly people or anything like that. It'd be like Copeland. So I appreciate that, Amanda. But those people that prey on those people, how much more morally detestable can you be? I mean, they are literally the worst of the worst of society. And I don't need a God to tell me that. I don't need to even know anything about the Bible to know that what they're doing is morally reprehensible. It's repugnant. It is the antithesis of what a moral person would do, I think, in any kind of moral ethical theory.
See, here's the thing. If Copeland actually would have read the Old Testament, he would have realized what God did to people that he eventually bring down the hammer on people that actually did that to the poor. There were people that were doing that to the poor then.
Yeah, it seems to be human nature. Some people will prey on the weak.
And so all said and done, you can imagine it's like he'll have to live in perfect memory of all the detestable things he did. And he's not going to be living a life of luxury. He's going to be living a life of absolute mental hell. And so basically living out an eternity of remembering that over and over and over.
And I get that. The thing, the issue I have is, like, for example, everybody growing up, we've all done things we're not proud of. This is human nature, right? Nobody's perfect. We all said, "Oh man, if I could do that over again, or if I knew now what I knew then." But we learn from our mistakes. He doesn't learn from his mistakes, because to him, they're not mistakes. And Amanda, by the way, they're torturing dogs or something out there. What's going on out there? I'm sorry, animals are outside. They're having a conniption fit. Not ours. Amanda says, I got to read this. My psychological state is a whole new convo, possibly needing bourbon and a flowchart. Boy, that sounds like me. I would go to Scotch, but close enough. But we do got to wrap this up. It has been 90 minutes because it's Veterans Day, and I'm going to head back out. But thinking, why don't you come back and join us? Like I said, if I do my show tomorrow on my other channel, come back and stop in, because I do want to dive more on what eternity would be for consciousness, because I just cannot imagine being self-aware for an eternity. It just, that even in heaven, that seems like it'd be hell. I don't know any situation where for an eternity you've seen all, done all, and you just perpetuate. I don't know how I can rationalize that as something other than waking hell. I mean, even in heaven, maybe this is me, like I said, but I'm happy to have that dialogue.
Yeah. So let me, and the reason I try to be very soft spoken. It's on stuff like that. But when speaking about people like that, it does get my blood boiling. One of the things, just to cap it off on my end, when it comes down to someone like that, is I want to apologize. I want to apologize to everybody that's been hurt. Everybody, I can't make it right. I don't have the resources to do that. If I could, I'd write a blank check already. It's one of those things that, even please don't use them as a representation. You have very good writers from the Desert Fathers and whatnot that you can actually go to really glean what a life of repentance really is like. And there's a lot to explain on that.
No, I think I agree with you there. I mean, I didn't interrupt you, but I think that it's important to note that generalizations happen, and as a non-believer, I don't want to categorize all Christians in the same group. I don't want to say that because Copeland and Popoff and Benny Hinn and those people that exist, all Christianity is bad. Just the opposite. I support any people's right to believe what they want, as long as, again, it's not causing harm to people. They're causing harm to people, so there's no justification for that.
Yeah, and so again, the only thing I can do is say I apologize for their actions. I know I'm not responsible for it, but it comes down to it that if anything, hopefully your audience that's listening in has seen, someone that was kind of ill-prepared for any of this, but I came in because I wanted to really, it's kind of, when I hear about those people, my blood boils.
And look, I get it too, man. By the way, you got a weird squeak because every time I talk, I think you got some background noise. But as non-believers, we have the two, man. We have, we got the Matt Dillahunties of the world. It's just so psychologically, or philosophically, sometimes misleading that is just like, oh, dude, come on, stop. A lot of these people that profess to be enlightened because they're atheists say so much stupid shit, and it's just like, no, stop. So, we get it too. I mean, when Aaron Ra, who I happen to like Aaron, I really do, but when Aaron Ra says something stupid like rocks are atheist, where do you go from there? I have to apologize as a non-believer. Please don't take this guy seriously.
Yeah. Well,
just don't do it.
That's
just
the biggest...
stop. Maybe for biology, obviously. Aaron's great at biology, but in philosophy, he's a wreck.
Thinking, there are people that are non-believers already. Like, what is his name? Tom Howland, who wrote Dominion. I'll read that. There are non-believers I'll read. What is his name? Dr. Graham Opie.
Oh, Graham Opie is the best. And what's so funny you mentioned that, because so many atheists don't even know who Graham Opie is. I mean, I had a wonderful conversation with Graham. My paper that I wrote was based on Dr. Opie's work, and I think he's one of the greatest modern atheists out there. I mean, if somebody's professing atheism and they have not read Opie, they're missing out. He's respected even among theists. And by the same token, there's theists that I would read and respect. Dr. Rasmussen. He wrote a book called Necessary Existence, and he just wrote another one about being that I was talking about because, as I'm saying, I do my show tomorrow. I happen to correspond to a recent book that he just read, I told him I'd read it. But I have a lot of respect for him as a theologian, as a philosopher, even though he's a theist. So I don't think that we have to draw all these specific lines of demarcation merely because someone's a theist or an atheist. What I think it is a matter of, one, is this person really putting out information that's congruent with things that we already know? Are they putting things as fact, whether just opinion? And are they doing so honestly? And I think that's the biggest thing. When you have a theologian that's putting forth things honestly, which you seem to me to be doing, and I applaud you for that, as non-believers, we shouldn't be bothered by that. We should applaud that.
To me, it comes down to two things, two hallmarks: integrity and consistency.
Correct.
If you are utilizing both of those in talking about your position, your beliefs, your understandings, and having a discussion with someone who may or may not have opposing stances on all of those propositions, as long as you're coming from that standpoint, there's no reason a conversation can't go on and be fruitful in either direction.
100%.
Because you're going to learn from them. They'll learn from you. It's when you get into the pig-headed, egotistical, narcissistic personalities, those are the ones that screw it up. And those are the ones on both sides. Absolutely. That screw it for everyone else.
Yeah, and that's the one reason why I think this channel survives as more of a moderate voice. What I hold to theists, I hold to atheists as well. And like I said, yes, I'm a little hard on atheists, and I accept that, but only because I want them to do better. And I'm sure that Thinking Orthodox probably feels the same way for his group, that he wants his Christian group to do better. He doesn't want those Christians out there not representing the faith. Same as I don't want atheists going out there putting out bullshit information about philosophy that anybody can go take a course and realize is wrong. But anyways, we do got to wrap it up soon, but I wouldn't want to get Midnight in here. Midnight Sparkle decided to jump in. How are you, Midnight?
Hey,
what's up, man? How you been?
Well, nothing much. I've noticed I've noticed you were live, so I was like, you know what? Let me go talk. Let me go see.
You're still subscribed? I'm honored. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
I'm still subscribed, and
I don't get the views like I used to, but you know what I'm telling you, dude? I'm okay with that. I have been literally so happier in the last few months than I have than the entire last year. And far less views, and it's quite all right. It's good.
Well, honestly, I have been trying to be happy myself for the last few months. There's been a lot of shit that's been happening. That's it's kind of tipped the scales to where, okay, I'm happy, but but this shit happened to where to where it's causing my happiness to go down, and it's an entire fucking thing. It's something. It's something.
Called life, dude. That's called life.
It's something. It's 5 years later of knowing me, I still stutter, and no, I'm not high. Okay,
but anyway, I do gotta wrap it up because I'm heading back out tonight. I want to go get my meal at Applebee's. Maybe I'll find somebody to go hang out with. There was a person I want to go out tonight, but they haven't responded to me. We'll see what happens. But anyways, guys, I want to thank the veterans for their service. I want to thank Thinking Orthodox for coming in and giving the other side. Well spoken, obviously well educated on the topic, and I respect that immensely. Jay Brown, been a while since you've dropped in, so it's nice to have you in for a change, man. Although you've been quiet.
Yeah.
Steve, I wanted to go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, busy with work and everything now that I'm the boss.
Ooh, El Jefe.
Busy with work and everything. Now that I'm the boss, hit new TV show on ABC. Coming on Mondays.
And of course, At Jared, who actually does it. Well, he used to do it weekly. I don't know. I think it's bi-weekly now. Veterans get together.
It's closer to monthly now, and that is also because of work and things away from the computer, which for all of you people, if you are wondering if there's one thing you can do to make your life better, go enjoy the world outside.
Agreed. Oh, I think.
What if you can't? What if you're homebound?
You know what? Just walk outside, touch grass. Just touch grass. I mean, look, I know my streaming has been less than it has been, and I'm going to pick it up a little bit. There are some topics that I want to talk about both on this channel and on my other channel. But I took, a good solid, I don't know, maybe a month, maybe two, and I just haven't been streaming as frequently as I once was, because I'm doing stuff in real life. And I got to tell you, it is a notable difference. Living online as we were all doing because of the coof, especially, being homebound and not being going out, people got used to that. And people didn't realize that, there's still life out there. And I want to live it. I want to go out and enjoy myself. I don't want to be chained down to a monitor. Or in this case, I've got 3, believe it or not. I don't want to be chained bound by that. So I get often online. I do my email. I do my Facebook. I do my Twitter. But you guys don't see me as much online presence as I used to be.
I'm glad you shaved the beard, though.
Oh yeah,
glad you shaved the beard. Glad you're. There you go. You definitely
so,
you're definitely more human now.
Here, but you know what?
Gandalf.
I didn't shave the beard. It's still there. It's trimmed.
Well, yeah, but it's not. It's not like Gandalf beard.
But I mean, people know what I do now. They don't know where, but I mean, people know that I'm in loss prevention. It is a very different role than being what I do online and talking about these topics. But I have to be a little bit more serious. I mean,
what is loss prevention?
Prevent loss.
Well,
kind of in the name of the title. Mostly asset protection rather than people protection. I mean, I can get my guard card, and I'm probably going to end up doing it. But basically, I make sure that the assets stay where the asset's supposed to stay.
Yeah, you're a security guard. Just like that.
No, it's a difference. A security guard you actually have to have a guard card. There's a difference in what security guards do as a loss prevention, because my job is to protect the interest of the company from internal and external fraud and theft, not so much to protect the people. But a security guard, they can arrest people, but it's under what's called citizens arrest powers. I don't do any of the arrest, anything like that. But we work very closely with law enforcement.
Yeah, I'm just glad you're no longer terminally online, unlike me, who's physically disabled. Though I guess
touch
being
grass.
legally blind. I tried to touch glass. Wow.
Touch ass? You want to touch ass?
Well, that
works too, right?
I mean,
maybe that's why we're all.
I have become kind of a ladies' man lately. I don't know. You tell me, or a man's man, or whatever the fuck.
Hey, whatever gets you by, man. We don't judge. This is LGBTQ plus channel, and more power to you, man. This is what putting it full circle. If some god's out there and he's kind of telling me that, because I had somebody this the other day, they're like, oh well, homosexuality is a sin, transgender is a sin. It's just like everything was a sin to God. I'm like, God's boring. I'm like, it wasn't somebody I would ever be convinced of that being existing. I don't think they got misinformation. I just think that being that they're describing, even as an agnostic, I will say just doesn't exist.
Thanks for coming, everybody. We're gonna end the show now, Steve.
Well, I gotta go. I got plans tonight. So, anyways, anything you want to add, AT2, before we end this?
Oh no, it's been great, and I look forward to more of these types of conversations where differing opinions can have a conversation and it not be a dumpster fire.
Well, the
I
dumpster fires
mean,
fun,
are you
but-
sure about that? There's been many dumpster fires.
It's only a dumpster fire if
Leave
Red's
alone.
here.
Well,
somebody-
now, hang on. There's been many dumpster fires involving Steve alone. Okay, probably 50
Oh,
or
God, at
100
least.
since I've known this fucker.
you know what's funny? I'm still here, motherfucker. I'm still here, and I'm thriving. Even though I don't have the numbers like we once used to, but you know what? I'm doing better than I ever have, and fuck the haters. Fuck those people. Let's go out. Let's go enjoy ourselves tonight. Have a few drinks with some friends. Yeah, exactly. And you know, for the veterans out there, once again, thank you for serving our country. Thank you for joining and putting your life on the line and do what you have to do to protect this great nation of ours. So with that, guys, I thank you very much. Thanks for watching the NonSequitur Show, and I'll see you tomorrow on my other channel where we start talking about what makes existence existence. Good night.
I would say